So this evening we have, or what I've planned, and famously my plans often don't go as I planned. But what I have planned is Amrita Kriya Yoga special, looking into the practice. You know, we have 3 hours of time, which is a good chunk of time. So if it goes according to my plan, if Agastya or other gurus don't mess my plans, then we will do Amrita Kriya practice with Agastya. That's what I've planned. So yeah, we have the basic level 1 recordings of Amrita Kriya Yoga from last August, when I taught it the first time in a long while, in over 10 years I believe. And we did it with Maranatha then, with Jesus's Isha's guru. So one reason why I would like us to practice with Agastya today is to have recordings, more recording material for every one of you and all of those people who take up and start learning Amrita Kriya to have different versions and variations. But the practices that we're going to do today will be pretty much the level 1 set of practices, and then if we have time, then we might add 1 or 2 practices that some of you might have learned or haven't learned. So, but let's see if we have time for that. So good to see you, everybody. We had a pretty intensive, like a 2.5 week intensive that ended a couple of weeks ago. We had 15 or 16 days of training sessions over like an 18-day period when we have 15 or 16 sessions, and it's been a couple of weeks when that ended. So I haven't been teaching during this time, so I was already kind of anxious to get back in the, back behind the wheel. Yeah, because teaching is practice for me. Some of acharyas who are joining know that teaching others and guiding others is a very good way to learn. Challenges, you kind of have to clarify the points for yourself to then be able to teach others. So I was missing my practice in one sense. Although for a while now my personal practice has been pretty intense, thanks to several different factors coming together. Now here in Slovenia, living in the ashram, and because of that reason also being able to put quite a bit of daily time into sitting practices and physical practices. So I've been kind of clocking retreat amount hours for a while now. Yeah, so let's get into it and start practicing. We'll take it slow this evening, so it won't be 45 minutes of Kriya Yoga set, but we have 3 hours, so let's make good use of it, like retreat type practice. First, just aligning the body, spine upright, limbs relaxed, and all the muscles that don't need to be tensed, relaxed. it's useful to remind ourselves about the absolute view, the view of great perfection, which is that we have perfect and pure basic nature. We already have that nature, and everybody else has it too. In a very simple terms, that hopefully is understandable and applicable to beginners. Stop doing things. When we sit down and relax, just let the energies flow freely, but also let tensions go. There are, like I remember Mahasiddhatilopa, who is one of the great siddhas of the Mahamudra tradition, said something like, don't be bothered about the future. You don't need to think about the past either. You don't need to think about anything really. Don't think about the present either. Forget about finding something. Forget about seeking or going after something. Forget about the whole spiritual endeavor. In this way, relaxing physically, which affects energetics also, and relaxing mentally and emotionally. What is typical to our everyday self-centered and self-based mind is that mind goes after things and thoughts and plans and all that. And of course, we need to do that to a degree. And this is like a pointer for beginners, because thoughts and emotions stop being an issue at one stage of practice. But at this moment, when we are sitting here, we don't need to be going after things in our life, the mundane things going on in our life, but also we don't need to be pursuing any spiritual thoughts or ideas or plans. Drop all of that. And don't pick it up again. Our basic nature, directly relating to our physical bodies and our subtle bodies, both of them, one made of meridians, other one made of nadis, commonly spoken as astral body and causal body. This pure and perfect nature is already in all of these three bodies. So stop doing stuff, stop planning things, and it is easy to discover. On the level of the mind, there is selfless knowing, also called basic knowing. The mind, or our basic awareness, is cognizant. Cognizance is there. Knowingness is there. And it is selfless. There is no me or I being aware. Awareness is aware by itself. And this makes our minds clear. When we advance through Bhumi events, when we journey through the Bhumis, this clarity, this cognizance, this knowingness gradually encompasses all functions of the mind. Thoughts, emotions, subtle formless energy. So as we go through the Bhumi map, then all these basic functions of thinking, feeling, and then subtle formless energy, it is no longer separate, but included and integrated in our recognition of the basic state. And this is very liberating. It simply happens. Just to give you a brief reminder of Vipassana principle, at the beginning of the path, one reason, or the main reason why we seek to practice the Dharma is because thoughts and emotions are a problem. And also formless, subtle energy is a problem because it is connected to sleepiness, drowsiness, depression. But same selfless knowing or knowingness that we are now recognizing together, find it in thoughts and emotions and subtle energy. Simply look if it is there. If the same diamond-like clarity can be found there, right in the middle of a thought, right in the middle of an emotion, thought association, thinking process. See if it is there. And it is there. We just need to make the connection. We just need to make the discovery about something that we didn't see before. This is Vipassana principle. So mind clear, head clear. And then soft. Very soft energy is there. It is not only that there is like this harsh, clear light of diamond, but it has immense softness. It's like a bed of flowers. In a mountain valley. Sun shining. Lots of humidity. And very sweet taste. When I'm saying these things, I am of course explaining how the basic state, our enlightened nature is, but I'm also giving instructions about what to recognize in your own experience and what to find and notice in our own experience. Something that marks the self-centered, self-based samsaric mind is that it feels very constricted and limited. But here it is the opposite. Completely open, relaxed. Easy, worryless. This is our basic nature. Our basic nature. So, clarity, selfless knowing, softness, aliveness. And the third basic characteristic is groundedness. Can't be pushed around, can't be pushed over. And the reason for that, well, classical texts of great perfection, Mahasandhi, Dzogchen teachings, often use the analogy of a mountain, that it's mountain-like. But the exact reason for this groundedness or unshakable quality of the basic state is that it is not a thing. It is not some special state. It's not some special energy. So it is not a thing. It is not an object. Objects, whether physical or non-physical, can be moved. But our basic state is not like that. And that's why it is, in common terms, grounded. Stable. And these three basic qualities, basic knowing, softness, stability, penetrates our whole being. Every cell of the body, every micro millimeter of meridians, every micromillimeter of nadis. It is true to our whole being. The skin at the tip of our noses, muscles and flesh in our hands, bones inside our bodies. Completely pure, sacred. whole. All tissues of our physical body and non-physical bodies, all physical activities of our body, but also energetic activities of the mind and feelings, already included, already resting in the nature of great perfection. All beings resting with us in the nature of great perfection. All our memories, whether we label them as good or bad, resting in the nature of great perfection. Shocking memories, traumatic memories, resting in the nature of great perfection. Natural perfection. Fully at ease. Fully at ease like our whole being. With the weight of our bodies, mass of our bodies, our flesh, our bones, resting in the nature of great perfection. And this great perfection is not impersonal. Buddha Dharma and the mentioned Vipassana principle releases the confusion around the notion of self, me or I, the small self or grand self. That's what that principle and those practices are for. But having said that, this pure nature of ours this nature of great perfection, that has the basic characteristics of selfless knowing, softness, aliveness, sweetness, stability, groundedness. That's our true self. That's the I. That's the me. So it is not only some abstract great perfection, like things floating, or these pure qualities floating in the space of Dharma in an abstract way, but it is all about each one of us. It's all about our personalities, our true selves, our sense of me, our sense of I. The great perfection is all about the person. And this is how the notion of self, me or I, would have always been associated with if there hadn't been shocking events, traumatic events, and then the self-based confusion. So when we are sitting here in this experience, in this recognition, and us being creatures who think and feel, we think through words and concepts. So we don't necessarily have to put a label on this experience and its different characteristics, its different qualities, but at the same time, we can. This is all about I, me, in case of each one of us. It's not a small, constricted I. It is not a great, some grand I or self. It's the basic sense of self. For clarifying and for healing all those distortions that traumas and self-based delusion create, there is the practice of I-affirmation, which means that just like we are now sitting, when we are recognizing the basic nature and its qualities, we sit with our mass of our bodies in that recognition to correct those psychological traumatic distortions. Associate the thought of I with this experience rather than with those limiting and painful experiences that we've had in the past. So for this purpose, there is the practice of I-affirmation. This belongs to the category of yogic practices called samyama, commonly spoken in English as affirmation practice. And simply you sit in this recognition and associate the thought I with this energy, with this experience. So in your mind, silently, say to yourself in your own native language, I. About every 30 seconds, every 45 seconds, repeat the affirmation. I. This experience is my original I, the original psychological self that has no traumatic distortions. And we're simply returning that most fundamental psychological concept to where it should be and how it should be. I. Me. So you say the word, say the thought, and when you say it with your whole body, with your whole being, as if there was countless little mouths all over your body saying it. Say the word with your whole body, with every cell. I. And when you say the word, just let go of it and let it reverberate through your being. Let the readjustment, realignment happen. Me. I. Very good. Beautiful, isn't it? I. If this is your first session of doing the I affirmation, it may or may not immediately click, but when you have solid basic understanding of what we're doing with it, what's the purpose of doing this, then at some point it clicks things fall into place. And then when you start doing the affirmation in sitting, among activities, it is all these pure qualities, basic qualities, clarity, softness, groundedness, love, compassion, kindness, all of that, discriminative faculty, that comes about when you do the affirmation. I, me. Something that happens, I've seen it, that when people do the I affirmation, where the purpose again is to associate this basic psychological concept of self or I with pure qualities. Something that I've noticed is that sometimes things get muddied a little bit. You know, the karmic conditions from our meridians or nadis or both start getting mixed with the concept. And then when you say the affirmation, you are bringing dirt into the mix. Be aware of this. And when you notice that that happens, some not so pure energies, sensations, feelings start coming with it, become aware of it. And simply associate the thought I with pure qualities by recognizing the pure qualities. I, minä. It might be about half a minute, 45 seconds, a minute, or maybe even a little longer that you're saying the affirmation. You don't have to watch it from the clock to take time. Rather, just work with it. See what comes with it, through it. And be aware of the sensations, energies. Be aware of what you feel. So much joy, so much celebration in this basic nature of ours that beautifully ties to this original self. So much joy, golden joy, rainbow colored joy, diamond joy. Whole body joy. Whole body smile. Stay with it. Move slowly when you start moving. I'll lie down for about 15 minutes. I'll let you know. All right. So, what did we just do? Maybe I'll first say a little bit about that I-affirmation in the context of Kriya Yoga. So I remember many years ago, almost 20 years ago, when I first learned Kriya Yoga practice, quite similar to what we do in Amrita Kriya, although there are also notable differences. But I remember the Indian Swami coming from a Kriya Yoga lineage started by Babaji. The way how he led practice sessions was that, there were, just like in our set of practices, there are bodhicitta prayer first, then calming of meridians, alternate nostril breathing, Kriya Pranayama, and Vajra body. In the set that he was teaching, every now and then he said the word love. So he would, for example, be guiding Kriya Pranayama, where you inhale up the spine and exhale down the spine. And he would say that, inhale up, love. Exhale down. Inhale up again, love. Exhale down. So it was his, apparently from that lineage, they used this. They kind of spice up the soup with the word love by mentioning it every now and then. And, anybody, maybe some of you have done affirmation practice with the word or with the concept of love. Just repeating that word every now and then, and there is a corresponding energetic, it affects you. The energy of love gets cultivated and you start experiencing it. I remember that Swami in Kriya Yoga there is a strong element of devotion, loving devotion, or bhakti. You could even say that, in traditional Hindu yoga system there are three main forms of yoga. So there is bhakti yoga, which means yoga of love and devotion. There is karma yoga, which means yoga of action and activities. And there is jnana yoga. Jnana is written J-N-A-N-A, but it's pronounced jnana. So yoga of non-dual knowledge. So these three. And then you could kind of say that fourth category is Raja yoga, which means yogic or meditative practices. So there is a very strong element of loving devotion in Kriya Yoga, very strong element of bhakti in Kriya Yoga. And it has to be there because, if you approach all the channel practices and energetic practices without that, what is that word? Magnetic energy. Love is magnetic. It's a little bit like glue. It glues things together. So you have to have that with yogic practices, and especially the practices dealing with channels and the energy system in so much detail as Kriya Yoga generally does and Amrita Kriya Yoga specifically does. So that element of love needs to be there. But here's a perspective. So we just did a session with I-affirmation. First we started with, myself pointing out how the basic state is. And then we kind of brought it back or binded it back to the concept of I or self. How was that? Was it okay? So it's commonsensical when you start thinking about it that when we speak of, for example, love or compassion, kindness, all of these qualities are just qualities of energy. They are energies, pure energies, isn't it? But there is more to us than just energies, Well, it's not really that complex or advanced psychological element, the notion of self, but we have that notion of self. It kind of, sometimes you see confusion about this, where people, practitioners who don't have good theory to follow or not very clear understanding about emptiness or wisdom, for example, and they kind of want to stay away from anything self-related. They kind of want to keep it at least at arm's distance. But so like I taught in that session, there is a thing called wisdom that comes from seeing that all these mind elements, they don't have entity in there. They don't have that kind of self or selfing in there. Not small one, not a big or great one. There is no notion of ownership or self that puts limitations. That such self is released through Vipassana principle. But then there is more. It doesn't end there. And this is kind of, I haven't seen, well, I don't know everything about Buddha Dharma, but I think that I can say that I know enough and have seen enough and studied enough to be able to say that in terms of emptiness teachings and in the light of psychological understanding, that's kind of where Buddha Dharma stops. And it simply occurred to me some time ago that it goes further than that, And of course, there's the whole cultural kind of historical thing that is happening in Buddha Dharma, which is that many Buddhist teachers are looking into Western psychology and understandings and teachings from psychology to better understand Buddha Dharma. Well, that's a whole different discussion, but I simply started thinking about this notion of self, me or I, from the psychological perspective, which means that looking at it from the perspective of meridians, not nadis, but from the perspective of meridians and meridian energy. When I realized that, when we are very young, small children, babies, around 1 year old, this psychological thought or concept of self or I, me, is developed, gets developed. And if it was left untouched by shocking events, then it would remain in its original condition. And like I explained, this is what we are kind of bringing the thought I, that's where we bring it back to purposefully. We associate that concept with our original pure state, like we were before we were traumatized, early childhood. But I think it's the case for most people that there is psychological trauma, and not only that, but that psychological trauma or even developmental trauma starts developing very early, when we are 1 or 2 years old or something like that. So we are simply kind of re-establishing, realigning that concept of I. And it might not be that apparent if this was the first session you did I-affirmation, but it will become apparent to you that all these pure qualities that Buddha Dharma discusses, or teachings of great perfection, Dzogchen discuss, they are all qualities of this basic psychological fundamental concept, or I. So coming back to that, what Swamiji, how he taught Kriya Yoga by spicing the soup with love, by mentioning it, affirming it every now and then, I think that spicing up our Amrita Kriya Yoga practice with the affirmation of I kind of gets deeper. So this is this is the point that I was coming to all this hour and a half that I wanted to clarify. And another point that I want to clarify is about Paravastha. So it is actually not the case, and well, this is again a whole another discussion, what is valid Kriya Yoga practice and what aren't. But well, fortunately I can say that having studied Kriya Yoga, different styles of Kriya Yoga in maybe 6-7 lineages back in the day, I can say that the practice of Kriya Pranayama, breathing in the central channel in the spine, and then Paravastha, where you shoot your attention above the head to make contact with the so-called Mahasiddha centers after spinal breathing, it's common to most styles of Kriya Yoga, but not all of them. So in case somebody watches this at some point, now some of you or later, and you have learned some form of Kriya Yoga where there is no spinal breathing, but some other type of pranayama, then that doesn't really qualify as pranayama, because Kriya Pranayama or Kriya Yoga, because that's really a key principle, spinal breathing in Kriya Yoga, which is why, you know, this practice was lost from the yogic culture, and that's why Babaji and many other Mahasiddhas, some other Mahasiddhas, found it necessary to start revitalizing these practices. Anyway, so after Kriya Pranayama, or after, you know, there are different versions of Kriya Pranayama. I've given a couple of them so far. I still have some heavy duty tools in my toolbox that I haven't yet taught, but after that there is something called Paravastha. There's two words there, para and avastha. Para means something like going above or going beyond, and avastha simply means state of awareness or state of mind, state of energy. So Paravastha is very fundamental to Amrita Kriya Yoga and most other styles of Kriya Yoga. We could use synonyms Sahaja Vastha, Sahaja Avastha for Paravastha, which means natural or spontaneous state of energy or state of mind. We could perhaps, if we pushed it, we could call it Sahaja Samadhi. So state of natural state, actually. So in Kriya Yoga practice there are two different types of Paravastha, two different types of Sahaja Avastha, which directly relate to stages of practice. Meaning, if you're a beginner, you have the first type, and then over time, as the meridian system, the astral body becomes more and more pure, the Paravastha is no longer experienced up there, but down here in the body. And isn't it that when we did I-affirmation, it's already coming through the body? So the I-affirmation is a really fantastic little practice that not only has a power to heal lots of traumas, release lots of emotional pain stored in meridians, but also to quicken the process that happens through Kriya Yoga by cultivating, bringing out the Paravastha, this natural state, from the body space, from the body. You know, the meridian system is directly in connection with the physical body, so that's why it feels so physical, so visceral. So this is what I wanted to say, that Paravastha has two types or two stages. In the beginning, for some time, depending on how much you practice, how quickly you're able to heal the traumas from your meridians. So in the beginning, Paravastha means making connection with Mahasiddha centers above the head. But over time, even though you shoot up your attention to make connection with Mahasiddha centers, it very quickly descends down. And then it's just, it's the light and energy, all those pure qualities, pure energies shining out through the body. And of course, this is for practitioners who are still working on purifying their systems. It's a momentary experience. But, and partial experience also. Can be partial, where the light shines, through part of the body, or it can be complete, where it shines through the whole system, which is what cessation means. Having a cessation of karmic factors, so then for some period of time it shines fully through the whole system. But then when we are done with meridian purification of the astral body, then the light shines all the time, non-stop. And then cultivation is no longer needed. So just to with that little commentary just to establish some basic things that we all need to know